What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hey everyone, what's up?
Not much. How are you?
This is nice. This is way better than that table we usually podcast around.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second here. If you're listening to the audio podcast, things are happening here. If you're watching the video, you're already putting it together. Over here in the part of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
Go Jets, getting that awesome draft pick. 3 and 13, 3 and 12, whatever they are now.
Over here, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host.
And then over here, the man of the hour, one of my best friends in the world, the man with 1,000 voices, Lee Everett himself, Dave Fennoy.
Hi, kids.
Woo. Dave, we're at your house.
This is my house. We're in the backyard. We're at the fire pit that I love to spend time at, and we're just talking about whatever we're going to be talking about.
Whatever comes up. You know how the show rolls.
Yeah.
It's a topic by topic, day by day, show by show. Of course, we're drinking out of Dave Fennoy coffee mugs.
Well, not everybody. I've got a
amazing GameOverGreggy.
Let's
cheat it
turn
to the
around
camera,
so you can
Dave.
cheat to the camera.
Jeez.
I've got my GameOverGreggy cup.
You can get those, of course, at kindafunny.com/store, or you can get your Dave Fennoy mug over at davefennoy.com. There you go.
I said it too.
Yeah.
I said it together.
Oh my God. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, this is the GameOverGreggy show, and the idea is simple. Every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this fire pit, each bringing a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, support us on patreon.com/kindafunny, which allows for all these amazing trips like this to happen.
This one is
So
worth the dollar.
wait, you said you guys are coming back every week to my fire pit?
You did at dinner he made the bold claim at dinner. He's like, yeah, anytime you guys need to come down here. I was like, it's over.
If you guys want to come every week, you can come every week.
We appreciate that.
I'm that kind of guy.
Dave Fennoy, stand-up individual.
Absolutely.
That's why
I'm
going
going to sit down because, I don't want to mess up the shot.
Sure, Nick Scarpino, the producer/producer, spent a long time setting this up.
It was a while.
Yeah.
But it looks good.
No, it's not. It wasn't. I didn't mean that wasn't a knock. You did an excellent job.
Thank
You
you.
did a wonderful job.
Thanks, guys.
I'm proud of you.
I mean, it took a long time to string all these lights back there.
He laid every brick in this fire pit just
yeah,
for
this is faux. This is not a real fire pit.
No,
This is just it's
Yeah,
not
this was a DIY show that happened this morning.
you LA types. There's always
So
something
perfect.
happening around here. Dave, it's tradition on the GameOverGreggy show that the guest goes first. What topic do you want to bring to your fire pit?
Wow, there's so much. We have cops killing people. We have now people killing cops. We have movies being banned. It looks like Hollywood is now being run by Kim Jong-un and North Korea. Let's start with that one. I mean, what do you guys feel about this movie getting banned? I don't like it. I don't like it.
You're going to go out on a limb.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't like. I understand.
I'm going to say be careful, Greg.
No, I'm on top of this.
We got some rubber near some
Oh no,
fire.
this would be great if his feet caught on fire. This would be good.
These are brand new Converse from the Converse store.
Okay.
Nothing bad can happen to them.
But back to serious matters.
Right.
I'm sorry that Sony canceled the movie. I understand what happened. The movie theaters got scared when Kim Jong and his hackers said, if you go into that theater, we're going to have a 9/11 kind of situation. Frankly, they don't have planes that can get here.
Sure.
So they wouldn't be flying. But they've been threatening this country with annihilation for years, and nobody's paid attention. Why do we pay attention now?
Yeah.
The movies are brought into it. They're fucking with America. You know? I think that's a big reason why. It's like everyone knows who James Franco is, so it's like once he's a target of this, then all of a sudden everyone's like, oh shit. Right?
Well, I think this is also the first time we've actually seen them do something, right? It's usually been a lot of talk on we'll annihilate you, we have a bomb, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. But they actually hacked a major motion picture studio owned by Sony, but in America, right? It's owned by Japan, but it's in America. This is a pretty serious crime when you think about it.
It's a huge crime. And talking about that movie getting canceled, you mentioned before, Sony isn't an American company. It's a Japanese company. And it's been mentioned that maybe one of the reasons the movies were pulled was because there could be repercussions in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a worldwide thing, right? And it's just interesting. Like, let's clarify that the movie wasn't pulled per se. It is still an active film. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to distribute it.
Well, they keep
the
going back and
theaters
forth.
are the ones that actually decided we're going to not show it because there's a threat and we want to be safe. We want to make sure the public, the moviegoer, is safe.
Can you imagine the lawsuits?
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and it sucks because we're coming off of not the heels, but we do have it in recent memory of the Dark Knight shootings when that movie came out, and so people do want to feel safe in a movie theater. That is the one place you should be able to, along with a lot of other places in the United States.
That's the one place.
You should feel safe as a movie.
Walking down the street,
Your church, your synagogue, second.
walking through Walmart with a toy gun, or being a 12-year-old kid playing in a playground.
I do find it interesting, though, and this is something we've touched on, is that I wasn't aware really what the interview was until all of this came out. And obviously, this specific topic has wide-reaching repercussions, right? It's not just about the movie getting pulled. I mean, there was a seriously crippling effect that it had on Sony Studios. I was reading an article saying that they had to get handwritten checks to their employees because their entire accounting system was messed up.
Wow.
Man.
I mean, that's a huge loss of revenue. You've got all the leaked emails. You've got all the private correspondence that were happening.
That really embarrassed the hell out of Sony. And frankly, seeing some of the emails and, oh, this one was racist, this one's this. You know, I think we all sometimes between friends, you say things that maybe you wouldn't want the public to know that maybe really isn't that bad. You're joking around. Yeah, you joke around with each other. And I don't think it's really, it's not good. It makes them look bad, and I don't think they're as bad of people as these emails made them look like.
I mean, you figure the fucked up thing about all of it, right, is that it's such an invasion of privacy.
Ooh,
and like
boy.
when you can compare this to the fappening, when
Yeah.
all the the nude selfies of all these celebrities leaked,
Yeah.
right? And sites were like, we won't run them, that's stolen property, yada yada yada. But now that it involves movies and not sex and this, that, and the other, and there's all these juicy tidbits of them calling people, Angelina Jolie's this
Oh, she's
spoiled
not that
brat.
talented. She's a spoiled brat.
Exactly, and then we now have. Oh, wait a second.
Their
21
words, not ours.
21 Jump Street might cross over with Men in Black. It's like all those rules fell away,
Yeah.
and like, this is what now it's okay to talk about all these different things.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of an interesting issue in and of itself, right? Let's unpack that for a second, Colin, if you're ready.
I mean, I prefer that we unpack as much as we can.
We all we have high stress lives. Like, we're in production. Production comes with a certain amount of anxiety. And I think that sometimes, you say things or you write things that maybe you don't necessarily mean generally, but in the heat of the moment, you just need to vent to someone. And so I don't know where everyone comes down on that, right? Because there would be multiple times when I'll pull Colin aside and be like, I cannot stand Greg. The ego is too much. He's a prima donna. He screams constantly. He's gonna just blow his vocal cords out one day, and then he's gonna be useless to us. It's
a blessing and a curse,
A
really.
giant paperweight. We'll be able to just kind of send him on errands. He can drive the car like Kevin.
Gelatinous paperweight.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm split on that issue because it's hard, right? I mean, these guys are top executives at Sony. They live a very stressful life, and sometimes you say things, and then to have that sort of what you thought was a private correspondence, whether or not your opinion in it was warranted or not, or it was crazy, that sucks. I mean, that is just a really, really damning, and it's hard to come back from. And that's I sympathize with these people. I don't.
Everybody has said things and written things to people that they wouldn't want anybody else to know about.
Right.
And just imagine when you accidentally send an email
Or
and
text to the wrong person.
or texting the wrong person. Things like that. We've all done that, and it's like that sucks. But imagine whatever it is that you're saying. Being
Imagine
sent,
that showing up on Variety the next day.
Like front
or the
page of
Hollywood
Reddit,
Reporter,
that's
and
like,
you're like, oh my
damn.
God.
I
We
think
should
it's
be so lucky.
I think it's such a complicated issue because, like you were saying, I think there is some geopolitical issues.
Kevin, don't
at
take a
hand
picture of me when I blow my nose.
in the sense that Japan and Korea obviously have a very sordid past with each other, going back before the World War. Japan
centuries.
occupied. Yeah, I mean, Japan and Korea have been quarreling for a long time, and obviously it really came to a head before World War II, when Japan was occupying Korea for a while and really doing heinous things over there. And I think that generationally there's a lot of strife between those two countries. And for as much as we get threatened by North Korea, Japan gets threatened just as much, if not more, and they can do something to them because they're right there, as well as Seoul, South Korea being 30 miles from the demilitarized zone. So those two places, not that Korea has anything, South Korea has anything to do with Sony, but there's just a lot of things to consider that aren't American or whatever, their weak MiG fighter jets and their Taipodong missiles that are terrible, and their joke nuclear bombs that they basically have can do a lot of damage to them. I'm not worried about California. I don't care. They're never going to get anything here, but they could easily sneak a bomb over the border.
So do you think a call came from the head of Sony in Japan to the head of Sony in America and said, look, you're gonna pull that movie.
I think it's possible that even though Sony Computer or Sony, not, we were so used to talking about Sony Computer,
Yeah.
Sony, Sony Pictures is an American company that, presumably their ties to Japan are still intimate.
Yeah.
And I think that they just have a lot of things to consider. With that said, I still think that it was the wrong move simply because.
Negotiating with terrorists.
Yeah, you don't negotiate.
Let's clarify though, because I think that it was the studios, the theaters that decided not to show the film.
Right,
So
and
Sony
then-
was going to put the film out, and the theaters, all the 4 or 5 of the major 6 or 4 of the major 5 theater chains, decided against it because of the threats.
Yeah.
Sony, I still think, very much wants to put this movie out, especially now
They
that
want to get the money.
they wanted their money
And as a
back.
matter of
It's a
fact,
very expensive film.
This movie would probably do better
Oh, it's
now
definitely.
than before all the controversy, because now, were you going to go see the movie?
No,
Anybody?
no, I will now, though.
Anybody?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
I'll
when
definitely
it
see
comes,
it.
they had
Absolutely.
said they weren't going to put it out. Then Obama was like, put it out. Now they're like, oh, we're looking into putting it out. So when it inevitably comes to on demand, yeah, I'll buy
Yeah,
it for
yeah.
sure.
You got it.
Wait, Obama said put it out? I
Yeah,
missed that
Obama
part.
said that
He
they
said he
made
was
a huge.
disappointed.
Yeah, he said he
They
was.
said
they
they
made a
should have called
mistake.
him.
And I think that, I think one of the most prescient, interesting things that was said about the whole thing was from Mitt Romney, actually, who tweeted that,
Yeah.
Sony should actually just put the movie out for free and then just solicit donations to something like Ebola research if you wanted to. So basically just put the movie out there and just say, fuck you to the terrorists. Be like, everyone can watch it for free, And then,
yeah, they can't
and-
do it though. The
and
movie
then-
cost like $64 million to make.
But I was reading something on
But
Grantland.
you
where they were
mentioned
sa-
Ebola, and Ebola hasn't been mentioned since the election.
Exactly, because and it's still ravaging, Western Africa.
Yeah.
But
But
I
that
actually,
doesn't involve James Franco, so nobody.
but I was reading something really interesting where they were saying that the movie was they were saying that Sony could easily take a bath on this and be fine. That for instance, when Disney made The Lone Ranger, they took a bath on that was literally 6 times more than this movie actually cost to make. So and they're fine. So the movie was expensive. I'm sure they want their money back, but they're saying they can make a point by being you know what, fuck you. Because they need to do that for the actors that are going to work with them, the people that still have things in production. They need to show some balls.
Yeah.
And I think that
I
doing
think-
something like that would be awesome.
We need to get our hackers to out-hack their hackers.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
right. What's Anonymous doing?
Well,
Anonymous-
Anonymous says that they're going to put the movie out online. They say they've hacked the movie, they've got it, and they're going to put it online. So we'll see.
God bless the internet.
And the cool thing, to Obama's credit, one of the things he said, which was really cool, everyone's like, well, the FBI is the one who figured out that the hackers' ties to North Korea, even though they think it might have happened in China, and there's all this kind of weird shit going on.
Well, their stuff
But-
has to go through China.
Right, exactly. So they were like, we don't, they were saying it has all the signatures of something North Korea would do, but that, I guess they're still trying to work on it. But what I liked was Obama was saying in the press conference, they were like, well, how are we going to respond? And I like when we show our balls in America, and he's like, we'll respond at the place and time of our choosing. How we want to respond.
Yeah.
We're not going to worry about
We're
that.
gonna send him Dennis
Kim-
Rodman back again.
You won't know.
Just going right back to them. We gotta deal with him next.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman goes to Pyongyang, and then they revoke his passport, and he's just stuck there, and it's like, have fun.
Yeah, done. Play basketball.
And that
crazy,
would
though,
be
this
punishment
year.
enough for North Korea.
Yeah,
Oh, you're stuck with him now.
I feel like this year there's been more leaked stuff than in the history of ever. Right?
Connectivity is going
And
up.
is that it? There's
Yeah.
just that there's so much more on the internet that
Yeah.
it's.
We should be very afraid of what hackers can do to government infrastructures, bank infrastructures, and stuff like that. I think we're just seeing the beginning of the destruction that can happen digitally.
Not to mention the infrastructure of power, electricity, water. All those things are on computer now.
Right. It's
You know,
scary.
maybe we shouldn't talk about it, dude, because the hackers are listening.
No, what's crazy is very well known. I've been catching up on The Walking Dead. Maybe you've heard of that. That small franchise. And I've been having these weird dreams about losing power,
About
losing
hackers.
water, civilization breaking down. So you're hitting a nerve here, Dave.
My fan-
Well, you missed it at when we
Why is that your
when we
fantasy?
flipped the calendar over to 2000. You remember that?
Oh, the Y2K.
And the Y2K, and everybody was talking about, oh man, everything's gonna shut
Yeah.
down because the
Planes will
computers
fall from the sky, they
And
said.
of course, they sold a bunch of books. A lot of people made money, and nothing happened.
Yeah, I remember waiting. I remember being in my room on my computer, my Sony Vaio at the time.
Yeah.
And waiting for everything
Wow.
to just be and nothing happened. I remember though you guys aren't from the East Coast, but this is a big story. You might remember it. I think it was summer 2004 when the power went out from Quebec and Ontario all the way down to Florida and the Gulf Coast, and it was out for 4 days. You guys don't remember? It was a big deal. And
I remember the iconic shot of New York having no power and everybody walking across the
yeah,
George Washington.
yeah. My
Bridge.
brother was one of those people
Ah,
working.
I
And,
do remember
but I remember
that.
when that happened. 9/11 was still very fresh
Yeah,
in our
that's- we
minds in
all
New
thought it
York,
was
and everyone was
terrorist,
like,
yeah,
"Oh
yeah.
shit!" They hit they somehow hit. Like I think it was like something in the Great Lakes, like where we get all our power from in there. They assumed that, that was just something that happened, like a malfunction that took 4 days for them to repair.
Oh, that'd be
You
the
know,
worst.
like imagine in the middle of the summer, it sucked. It was actually
No
really cool.
computer for 4 days, man.
I was 20, 21. I was just drunk the entire time, basically at my friend's pool. But I'm sure a lot of people were really suffering.
I'm telling you right now that when we had Storm Apocalypse, what were they called? Apocalypse.
Hellstorm.
Oh yeah, the thing that happened just last week.
Yeah, the thing they're like, we're gonna get
Snowmageddon.
3,000 inches of rain, and then it was like a light, like the rain yesterday.
It was a light
rain.
drizzle at best.
It was no, it was bad, but it was not nearly as. It was not
Well, it
nearly
depends on where you were, because
Exactly.
there were places that washed out. There's some houses here that the hills washed down, and those houses are done now.
Yeah, what are you gonna say
So
about your
it,
drizzle now?
Great.
Hey,
Move your
water
mic. Move your
can
mic more
mess some
centered.
people up.
Shut up,
I'm losing
I'm yelling
you
at
when you
him.
go over there.
Well, I know, but I was trying not to do that, so.
That's fine.
I was just failing it.
Just move it toward the zipper. We'll wait.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting, everybody.
No,
after
sorry.
all these years,
My
you
point with
still
that
don't know
was
where to place your
I
mic.
know where to place it, and I told him before this was going to happen. He's so lost in the camera and Kevin's good looks.
Kevin is a good
Thank
man.
goodness I'm sitting between you two.
I know. We might make out.
We're going to kill each other one
We're
day.
gonna make out.
Make out, one of the two.
We lost power in my neighborhood for like 7 hours, and my wife and I, because I was staying home that morning to kind of help out, because I was like, we don't have power. What are we gonna do? Did not know what to do with ourselves. Luckily, she had this thing called a book, like paper, pages. But she was like, I have to sit by the
So
window
this
and
is
read a
your
book.
wife, no power,
No, she
and
yeah,
y'all
she
didn't know
couldn't
what to
do
do.
Nothing. We had to literally. She made me stay home for 30 extra minutes in the morning to charge our iPad Mini in my car.
To
I had to
charge
drive
your
her around.
iPad Mini?
She's like, how could you forget to charge your iPad Mini? And I was like,
That's a great point.
I don't know.
I charged everything the night before.
Exactly. When it was coming, I was getting that Vita
I
charge.
thought
I was getting
about
everything
it.
ready. I
I
wasn't
forgot
going to fall
about
for
it.
that trick again.
You should have been charging her.
If you can figure out a way to make that work, Dave, I'll pay you money. I'll
wait a
give you a
minute.
great ROI.
I don't like where that's going.
No, yeah, that's
Take
that
my
can be
wife.
so misinterpreted.
Already has been.
That's very true. No, the other part of the issue, going back to the Sony stuff, is putting out the movies online. I feel like you were asking, like, how do we stop this, right? I think same with the fappening, right? Is you just don't look at the stuff. Like, don't download it. When the movie comes back out and it's available, pay for it if you want to watch it. That's just the way it should go.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
There's a lot of people that worked on that film, and it's not their fault. Like, none of this is their fault. Sure, some of the actors, the leads, are catching hell for it. The people that may have written it or directed it are catching hell for it. But what about the guys what about the DP? Like, Sean's friend shot it.
Yeah.
What is he like? He doesn't get to go see his movie in the theater now.
There was a
right?
Reddit post about it where it was a girl who was like, hey, my brother's big break was playing Kim Jong-un in this movie. And it's like, now that's not even happening. You know what I mean? No one gets
He'll
to see it
never
either.
work again.
that guy
man.
is box office poison.
Man.
Yeah, it was a crappy situation. I was surprised they pulled it. That was my thing in
Yeah.
the beginning. I really thought that people would be like, okay, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
fuck
Once the threat was made, I thought about how many lawyers there are in America, and
yeah.
I just knew that it was going to be
Yeah, you
pulled
knew it was
because. Can you imagine? It wouldn't even have to be something that happened from them. Some other idiot
Yep.
could do something. One person dies, and that family owns Sony Studios.
Yeah.
So, tough situation.
Yeah,
It's tough.
It's
It is tough.
it's logical and it makes sense. The thing I think about the most with this is that, we're gonna look back on this and be like, remember when that happened?
Yes.
Like, this is really one of those things that you're gonna remember for the rest of your life because it's a pretty big deal. Like, a studio got hacked and a movie got pulled, and it was a whole geopolitical
Rigmarole.
a rigmarole, as it were. This whole situation that involved governments and things that shouldn't be involved in something like
Yeah.
satire. And the second thing I think about, and I think about it a lot since it happened, is like, I hope that this doesn't happen to companies that really have shit. Because like I think about the amount of cyber technology and cyber defense, whatever that like banks and
Yeah.
all these companies have, and man, like some of these, if one of these guys targets,
Well,
like,
guess
and really
what?
put this to their
Guess
shit-
what? Banks are being targeted all the time, and one of the problems with Sony is Sony was told months before that their security, their online security was lax, and they needed to up their game, and they decided it cost too much money. This may have been preventable.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's so ironic, even though they're separate companies under the same umbrella.
Right,
That happened to PlayStation in 2011. Like, PlayStation got destroyed for like 6 weeks. They took PlayStation Network down because of what happened. So it's just even though they're separate companies, it's just weird that it's the same. You don't hear this happening to other multinational electronics corporations.
Yeah.
You know, like you really don't. It's just weird. It's a sad and unfortunate situation. But I think it's telling that everyone needs to be a little more cognizant of what these guys can do. And I'm not talking only about the North Korean hackers. I'm talking about
Hackers all over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought there was a cautionary tale, and I believe it was the best Die Hard. But I remember Die Hard with the fire sale. They warned about these hackers coming. Nick, you remember this? This was a Dynamite one, and it's
You're
got
talking about
Justin Long.
Live Free or Die Hard,
Justin
Greg,
Long
and
was
it is
in it?
not the
Is
best
that
Die Hard.
is that the last one?
No, that was the second to last one. The last one was the one with Jai Courtney.
Oh no,
where
that
they go
was
to
the
Russia
one
and fight the
where he
Russian mobs.
defeated a fighter plane
Yes.
with a truck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Classic scene. It
Die
goes, it's
Hard.
that, and then the scene where Red Butler says, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." Those two scenes.
Cinema.
Right, cinema.
Yeah.
Rosebud. You know, all that stuff. No. What are you talking about a fire sale for?
Because there was something with the hackers. They were going
It
to do a
was.
fire sale.
But that was
I thought we should have. From there, it seemed like I watched that movie and I was like, well,
Well,
don't
you
let
know-
that happen. We need
You
to
know
stop
what they
that.
say?
Bad thing.
Yeah.
Haters gotta hate. Hackers
true.
gotta hack. It's
There you go.
That's true. It's very true.
Baker's gonna bake. All that stuff.
Okay.
Jay-Z, you can use that if you want.